It's always about paying it forward, sharing what you've learnt, and leading with heart, not ego, is the most important thing for women in business right now.
Hello and welcome. I'm Elizabeth Formosa, the founder of Fashion Equipped and devourer of all things fashion, business and mindset. In this podcast, I'm speaking with thought leaders, change makers and entrepreneurs about the business side of fashion and everything in between. Fashion Business Mindset is your front row seat to real stories from designers, brands, entrepreneurs, makers and mentors. We'll discuss how to launch and grow a fashion business and give you insider access to the future of fashion. So let's do this together and ensure that you're equipped to make the fashion business your business. Welcome back to Fashion Business Mindset. Before we dive into today's inspiring episode, I have a quick favour to ask. Now, there's one simple way that you can support our show, and that's by hitting the follow button on the app that you're listening to the show on right now. This year, in 2024, we have big goals for the podcast. The first one is to reach 100 episodes, which we are on track for. And the other one is to grow our audience consistently and to ensure that this content is freely available to those who can benefit from it. So if I could ask you to hit that follow button, it would mean the world to me and enable us to keep doing what we're doing with Fashion Business Mindset and continue to go next level. My guest today is Tory Archbold, the founder and director of Powerful Steps, a business that empowers leaders to find their ultimate power through a heart-led skill set and the power of strategic storytelling. With over 24 years of experience in brand building, public relations, digital media and events, Tory has collaborated with some of the world's most influential celebrities, entrepreneurs and CEOs, delivering extraordinary results for local and international brands. Tory is also the author of Self-Belief is Your Superpower, the host of the Powerful Stories podcast, and the creator of the Business Attraction Program, which is a proven framework that helps her clients attract their ideal customers, partners, and opportunities. Tory's mission is to share her story of survival, resilience, and success, and to inspire others to embrace their authenticity and genuine care for others. Tory believes that human connection is the key to creating value and impact in any industry. During our dynamic conversation, we dive into why self-belief is your superpower, the number one fear that holds most people back, the power of 3 coffee dates each week, how to protect your energy, and the importance of leading with heart, and so much more. I loved every minute of my time with Tory, and no doubt you will too. So let's dive in. Tory, welcome to the Fashion Business Mindset podcast.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's take 2 for you and I know that this episode is going to be a powerful one, so thank you.
No doubt. Good things come to those who wait. Now, you're freshly back from the US, so we can't wait to dive into everything, all the dynamic work you've been doing. But before we do that, I would love for you to set the scene for our audience and just share a little bit about yourself and in particular, your journey before launching your current business, Powerful Steps.
Yeah, no problem at all. Look, my career's been backed by self-belief and a whole lot of coffee dates. I have to be really honest with you. I believed in myself when no one else thought that I had a business idea, and that was to create a brand and communications agency that was going to attract the world's top performing retail brands, celebrities, and influencers. And so at age 24, I guess, While everyone said no, I said yes. And I created one of Australia's most recognised agencies called Torstar. And we were responsible for launching, retail brands such as Zara into Australia, Everlane, Misguided, Mulberry, Nespresso, like the list goes on. And when I look back at those times, I ended up with 22 staff, 10 freelancers. And it was actually built and fueled by advocacy through the power of 3 coffee dates a week, because I was always taught, very young, coffee, not lunch. Not only is it a time effective way to build a business, it's also a great way to build advocacy for the brand that you're building.
So, Tori, no doubt many in our audience will remember your powerful work in the Torstar business. So let's not skim over some of those powerful brands that you were integral in building over the journey. As you mentioned, Zara was a big one. So the launch of Zara into Australia. I know that whole campaign and launch is used as a case study in many organisations at the moment. So let's just tap into that a little bit, share a little bit more about that experience, and then we'll dive into the powerful work you're doing now.
Yeah, so I actually received the call to launch Zara into Australia while I was in LA. Obviously, they were in Spain,
Yep.
and my team was in Sydney, Australia. And I didn't actually tell them that I was in LA at that time. I just coordinated the whole thing and worked 2 time zones, because we literally had 6 weeks to launch it. And on the day of launch, we had 22,000 people through.
Yeah.
We did $1 million in sales. It was complete and utter alignment and teamwork. We both shared the same values in terms of, Inditex, Zara, and Torstar of, passion. We're so passionate about creating and building a brand for the people on their behalf. Integrity, because we all know that no one suffers bullshit or assholes, really. And the last one is delivery. Like, it was really important to both of our brands that we created an experience in which people would keep coming back for more. And us as an agency, we were responsible for all of the communications. We're responsible for creating the event, really just building the hype. And I think that together we did an exceptional job. But the reason why it was such a powerful brand launch was through, the power of teamwork. I worked with an amazing guy called Jesus Echeverria, who at that point in time was described as the most powerful man in communication. And what I loved about him, and obviously it's a $1 billion brand, Inditex, was his nature to be humble, his nature to serve the people. And while we had all different media outlets from around the world that could see what was going on in Australia and wanted to tap into the excitement, I'll always remember him rejecting a TV interview while we were doing the opening. And he said, "Toy, look around. I don't need to do media interviews. Look at the people. We're here to serve the people. The people will share their experiences. And that is how we're going to create a powerful brand in Australia." And he was absolutely right. And that advice has really driven me along my career path, not only to work with other incredible brands around the world, but also to launch my current business, Powerful Steps. Because without the power of human connection, without us serving other people, we have no brand, whether it's retail or whether it's personal. And you're only as good as that last memory that someone has of their experience with you, that product, service, or, in the case of launching Zara, what it was like to actually be in store at that exact moment in time.
Yeah, such a profound moment in time, and so many others that you have, brought into the Australian and global marketplace over the journey. Now, why the switch into the work you're doing today, Powerful Steps? You stepped away from a very successful business that you established over many years. Obviously, what you're doing now is very meaningful work, much like what you did in the past, but why the switch into your current space?
I had worked with all of the brands that I wanted to work with. If anyone listening to this has a manifestation board and they look at all the retail brands that they absolutely love and they wanted to experience, I'd pretty much ticked it all off the list. And the last 3 brands that we launched into Australia were Victoria's Secret, Steve Madden, and of course, Drew Barrymore's Flower Beauty. And I just thought, you know what? There's no better time than to go out at the top of your game with 3 of the most powerful brands and celebrities in the world. And so that's what I chose to do. And what I discovered was that because I was self-taught, I was never degree educated. I just listened, and I was surrounded by powerful people in retail. And so I was able to tap into their knowledge and really develop my own unique frameworks as to how to create and build those powerful brands on their behalf, I thought to myself, what if I created and built my own powerful brand? What if I actually started sharing what got me to the top of my game, but also what were those really challenging points in my life? Because no one is ever going to follow a story, whether it's a brand or a person, if it's all glossy and fabulous, because we all know that life has dents in it. And so I started sharing the power of my story. And what I recognized was those brands that I'd worked with around the world started reaching out to me, and they said, Tory, what you have done for our brand is extraordinary. And, obviously we salute you and thank you. And I always say, well, it's a mutual success, because I couldn't have done it unless you approached me. And I couldn't have achieved that without the teamwork between my agency and your brand. But they said, there's something in what you're creating. How can we help you? How can we support you? And I think that's really powerful when you are trying to build a new business and you're tapping into your wisdom and knowledge to pay it forward to other people. So in answer to the question is, I felt that I had a powerful runway and a framework for female leaders to tap into, so that, they also had a success and survival story. But what actually drove them? What was their passion point? What was their purpose? What was their legacy going to be? And so Powerful Steps now is we really work with female entrepreneurs and leaders, anywhere from a business from 500,000 to 100 million we've got in our community. And it's the common thread is this: how do we share our story, Tory? Sounds funny, story, Tory, but it's
That's a great tagline. That's ingenious.
I just thought of that then. I was like, oh my gosh, the rhymes and the rhythms. But what I do is I help them tap into the power of where they got to where they are today. But most importantly, what's that legacy piece? What are they giving back? So it might be that some people really want a legacy to empower others through, financial legacy, financial literacy. It might be through sustainability. It might be through frameworks that empower women to step up into board positions. But what I noticed was that there was a common thread, that all of these women wanted to give something back, right? But they were sick of that tall poppy syndrome and people not cheering them on from the sidelines. And I thought, what if I can create a business that allows them to tell that story, but also that builds a community that cheers them on? And so that's what we've done. And we've got the biggest cheer squad of women from all around the world that just want to be a part of this magic that we're creating, because I said to myself, I want to build a business on heart, not ego.
Absolutely.
And women want that.
they sure do. And look, we know there's a lot of dynamics that you've just shared there, and I'd love to get to the heart of what holds women or people in business back from actually stepping forward and doing all of those wonderful things that you've just mentioned. So it is timely to talk about your book, because your book, titled Self-Belief is Your Superpower, which I absolutely love, read it, loved it. It's like the manual now on the desk. There's so many amazing frameworks. But why did you write that book? And look, you have shared so openly and freely in the book. It's just absolute gold. But what has that done for you and your business and the people who've actually been reading it?
It's a great question. Look, I wrote it because I had had success and survival in my career, and I knew that a lot of women had experienced that as well, but they were afraid to step forward, and they were afraid of what other people thought of them, right? So it's that whole like imposter syndrome. Am I good enough? Can I do this? And I kind of went, I don't know whether you can swear on this podcast, but I kind of was like, you know what? Fuck that. If I step forward, I'm stepping forward in my truth, in my alignment. Let's see what magic can happen. Okay. And so what holds women back, the number one thing is self-belief. And the number one fear is rejection. And I had rejection at 24. I also had rejection when I was shutting Torstar and creating Powerful Steps, because I remember going around and asking a series of different people through coffee dates, I'm going to close my business and this is what I want to step into. And I remember people just going, why would you do that? And here's the thing I said, because I can, I'm backing myself again, not only at 24, but at 44. So the key thread is become fearless. Don't worry about what other people think. That's not what's going to wake you up in the morning and gift you a happy heart. What is going to gift you alignment in your life to live a life of purpose, with passion, with intention, with integrity, and create a legacy for generations to come. Whether you're a leader of a big retail brand or whether you're just the leader of your own destiny, it's irrelevant. When you understand the power of your story and you stand in your truth, nothing can hold you back because you've got nothing to hide. And when you've got nothing to hide, you've got nothing to lose. And giving that power to other women is probably the best thing that I've ever done. So I always say the reason why I show up, because I never did in my tour star days, I always wore black, I was always behind the scenes. The reason why I show up every day is I know it makes a difference to women around the world.
I think that's such an important point because I remember reading that in the book. You said you owned how many little black dresses? So you had a wardrobe full so that you could blend behind the scenes. And that really kind of hit me actually, because you can see I'm in black
You're wearing
today.
black.
It's a Melbourne thing anyway, but it is kind of, I think I'm similar as you were in those days. It's like, it's not about me. It's about everyone else. It's about my clients. It's about the community. And there is this tendency to want to just kind of blend in the background and not look like you're self-promoting. Now, we're kind of flipping that switch here. It is about self-promotion, but in an organic, authentic way. So you mentioned a couple of things. You know, people are scared of fear and rejection. So I think everyone tuning into this is going to agree that there is that little person on your shoulder or voice in your ear, you know, saying, no, don't do that, go slow, pull back. There's so many things that are running through our minds, even if we're actively trying to step forward into our power. But how do you become fearless? So you've mentioned fearless, becoming fearless, and it makes complete sense. So how do you become fearless? And perhaps that might be in relation to some of the programs and the support and the mentoring that you offer your community, because from experience, I know you certainly cannot do that alone. It's not just like waking up one morning going, right, I'm going to be fearless from today onwards, and I'm going to put myself out there and, you know, I'm going to really deal with all of that rejection or maybe negative comments, and I'm going to push through it. It's really not like that. We need like a tribe around us to be able to do this. So how do you help your community get into this space where,
Own your story, own the power of who you are. And then you will not be afraid of rejection. You will not be afraid of getting that promotion. You will not be afraid of leaving a career that you don't really like to step into the unknown. And, you know, I spent many, many years getting to know myself, and I wish I had done it earlier, right? I really wish I'd done it earlier, and I really just unraveled who am I, what makes me tick. Like I knew what made me tick on a business level. I knew I was good at what I did, but I wasn't so good on the happy heart, right? What actually ignites and magnetizes you as you walk into a room? What draws attention to the message that you have to give to other people or how you can help them? And so I created this 5-point story framework, and it's on the front of my website. It's a free resource. You literally open up a Google Doc and, you know, spend half a day writing the story of your life. Like when as women or, you know, even as men, I've had men do this as well, do we actually take the time to know ourselves? And so I break it down into 5 different categories. And the first one is like, who were you when you were born? What kind of a family were you born into? What was that experience like? Where did you live? Like, what are those early memories? The second one is, what did you want to be when you left school? So, you know, my parents always wanted to box me, you know, study interior design, Tory. You can design a really nice house, marry a nice man, have 3 kids, white picket fence, join a few clubs. But I was like, that is not my destiny. So in the second part of my story, I jumped out of that box, booked myself to London, fell in love with media and entertainment because I didn't want to be boxed. I wanted to learn. I wanted to surround myself by the best of the best. So I got to work with, you know, MTV Europe, Nickelodeon, Columbia TriStar, George Lucas Films. And I really fell in love with the power of storytelling, which went into part 3 of my story, which again was led through rejection and people thinking I wasn't good enough to step into something that I really truly wanted to do, which was launch my own agency, Tour Star. And so part 3 of your story is all about, okay, well, what does that success look like? Who mentored you? Who got you to the top of your game? But also, what are those challenges, which is part 4 of your story? And we all have a game-changing moment. So mine was a decade ago in 2013. I was due to take a big media contingency to London for the top high street retail brand over there. But before I hopped on the plane, my appendix burst. I ended up, you know, in a coma. I got septicemia, couldn't fly, was given a 6-month recovery, but in actual fact, it was 3 to 4 years. And I had to reshape my life. I had to reshape who I was surrounding myself with. And also, after 12 rounds of antibiotics, I remember the surgeon saying to me, "You are never going to get better unless you
Wow.
become happy." And he wrote on a piece of paper, "A happy heart is a magnet for miracles." And obviously, I write about that in the book. But part 5 of my story is like, what does it take to get happy, right?
Yeah.
Wrote it in my Google Doc. What does it take, Tori, for you to get happy? And for me, that was really breaking down family patterns, not being a people pleaser anymore, not putting myself last on the list, and actually waking up day by day feeling lighter, feeling brighter, to the point where I was like, okay, I'm going to attract those top 3 incredible brands from the US. But as I was doing them and launching them into Australia, I was like, this journey is over. It's
Yeah.
time to back myself again. So when you ask, how do I become fearless? When I track back my story, I was actually fearless along my entire story. I just didn't acknowledge it.
Mm-mm.
But once I acknowledged it, I was able to stand in my power and shut a successful business and start again at 44.
Yeah.
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 And then at 46, I married the love of my life. So it's never too late to start again. Yeah.
No.
So, in answer to your question, the self-belief and the feeling of becoming fearless, the feeling of knowing as an executive that you can get that board role, you can lead a multi-million-dollar business, you can launch that retail brand into global markets. It doesn't start with ego, it starts with heart. And
Yeah.
it starts from understanding what makes your heart tick, what makes you happy, what is your gift to the world that you're going to share, because that's when you get the greatest results in business.
Amazing. Now, I've got to ask, when you went through your health crisis and you looked at redesigning your life to ensure that you were happy consistently, did you get some help? Did you reach out to a mentor? Like, how did you work through that process?
Yeah, so because Australia is such a small place,
Yeah.
I actually hired mentors in the US, and
Amazing.
they held me accountable. So I had one in New York, one in Chicago, and one in LA, and I
Yeah.
actually had a Buddhist monk in Thailand. So I really did mind, body, spirit, and
Yeah.
I understood through that experience that our health is our wealth. So if our health is our wealth, the number one thing each and every day is we've got to fuel our mind, our body, and our spirit.
Yeah.
But also, we're going to go through tricky situations with the people that we work with, the people that we associate with, our family, our friends. How do we navigate all of that? So I literally hired mentors that were experts in the challenges that I was facing.
Yeah.
And one of those challenges that I was facing as well was getting the keys to freedom and winning full custody of my daughter in a restraining order.
Mhm.
Now, I fired my lawyer. And I did that myself while I was running Torstar.
Yeah.
Not many women can say that they did that, but it goes back to the power of self-belief, understanding the truth, navigating all of those different layers, whether it's in the family law court or whether it's in a corporation, it doesn't matter. But I actually worked with a mentor who was an ex-lawyer out of Chicago. And she was my biggest cheerleader, and she held
Yeah.
me accountable for my bullshit. And she held me accountable when I kept saying to her, when am I going to see the light at the end of the tunnel? And she kept saying to me, when you learn the lesson. And she said, the same lesson is going to keep smacking you in the face, AKA finding you,
Yeah.
until you sit in that fear and you address it and it no longer becomes uncomfortable. And I tell you what, when I stepped out of that fear into my power, because of course I'm not legally trained, I'm none of those things, but I found a way because I was backed by people that believed in me. And
Yeah.
now that's the power of what I do with Powerful Steps. I back other people because I've got the lived experience to help them navigate it.
Yeah. It's so important to have the right people around us, especially when we want to make transformational change. And what we're talking about here, there are some huge steps involved. I love the slap in the face analogy. I'm always saying that because, it's an ongoing process working on our stuff. And I'll say it out loud to someone like, oh, I've just been slapped in the face again. That thing has shown up again. I've got to deal with it once and for all. But I guess, that is life. That's the universe reminding us, have you had enough of this yet? And everyone's got their limit. And I think we get to that stage where we've had enough and we're ready to deal with it once and for all. I want to talk a little bit about the rejection side, and I think it was the
Yes.
Buddhist monk that gave you some advice around how long do we wallow in our
Oh,
crap for.
marinating shit.
Can you touch on
This
that
is
for our
so
audience? Because
funny.
it's
I
a
love
great one.
this. So this Buddhist monk was many, many years ago, and he basically said to me, number one, he said, pick a card. And
Mm.
I was sitting in this office in Shiva Som in Hoi Hin outside of Bangkok, and I was there on my own. And I picked this card, and it was the warrior princess that broke free from the shackles of life. And it was like this woman, and the shackles are like coming off. And I'll never forget it. And I said to him, what does that mean? And he said, you have to hit ground zero, but you are going to rise like the phoenix, and your life is going to take a complete change and turn, and you are going to live a life of passion and purpose, but you've got to get out of your own way. And I said, well, what does that look like? And he said, I want you to imagine every challenge you face as a big pile of shit. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, here is this beautiful, serene monk in Shiva Som. It's one of the best wellness, retreats in the world. And he's
Yeah.
telling me basically to imagine the challenge as a piece of shit. And he goes, you're probably at the halfway point of your life right now. And he goes, I want you to think of one challenge, bring it into your mind. I was like, okay. And he goes, do you have 45 years to marinate in that shit? And he goes, and sniff it. And he goes, oh, it's supposed to be so awful. Or are you going to let it go? And I said, I'm going to let it go. And he said, you then got the option to marinate and be in that shit for 45 minutes, which when I came back to Australia, I did have some challenges. I was like, whoa, 45 minutes, maybe a little bit beyond that, because I
Yeah.
couldn't get out of my own way. Now I'm 45-second rule. I'm going to write my second book on it. I don't even smell the shit. I'm like, I'm making a decision. This is a decision. It doesn't matter if it's right or wrong, but I'm going to try anyway.
Yeah.
And that's the way that you elevate, and that's the way you get out of your own way. And what I love about it is my husband's come from a high profile retail role in corporate and joined my business. My daughter's now 19. They've had challenges. He's exited corporate, gone into becoming an entrepreneur. My daughter's like exited after being a COVID baby, going into uni. They both say to me, Mum, and my husband goes, babe, I don't even sniff the shit either. Like, yes, we are not a shit sniffing family.
I
We
love
make
it.
decisions and we wake up with happy hearts and we're in alignment.
Yeah.
And that's what gives people strength. So when you're faced with a challenge, just ask yourself, do you have 45 years to waste? No. Do you
Mm.
have 45 minutes? I don't have 45 minutes in my day. I don't know about you,
No.
but I do have 45 seconds to make a decision and trust myself that it's okay if it's a wrong decision, because I can always choose again. And a life lesson is what elevates you and motivates you to get to the next level in life.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. I mean, look, I do love a little bit of a wallow sometimes. I'll even say to others, just let me have this moment. Like, I really just want to wallow in this bad thing that's just happened, and then I'll get over it. But after reading your book, I'm like, all right, got to move
Oh, it's forward
quicker.
momentum.
Got to jump out of that crap
Yeah,
quicker now. It's a waste of time. And look, life happens, things happen. And yeah, it's a choice, isn't it? At the end of the day, it's a choice.
it's
If
a
you're going to,
choice.
yeah.
You got to trust yourself. So, we've just signed a joint venture in the US to expand our community and
Yep.
help Australian led businesses launch into other markets. And for the first time, I'm like opening up my little black book of connections over there, but I realized I couldn't do that alone.
No.
And we have big plans for the first year. And I woke up the other day before we went to the US and I said to my husband, it doesn't feel big. It doesn't feel right to go big in year one.
Yep.
And he goes, what do you mean? I said, I've had 45 minutes to think about it, but I'm shifting into 45 seconds. We're going to do something small and we're going to beta test it and then we're going to go big. And he goes, that's the right decision. And I said, yeah, it is. But
Mm.
so it's not that I don't just 45 seconds all the time. Sometimes I'm like, oh, is that really the right decision? Trust yourself, back yourself, but also know that don't bite off too much of the apple in the first
Mm.
go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and we've seen so many retail brands now trying to enter the US, and they're failing and they're retrenching staff and they're doing all of these things because you can't conquer that market with a scattered approach. You've got to conquer that market showing people that you can deliver.
Yeah, makes complete sense. We've got to do our due diligence. It's got to be strategic. And I love what you've said about that softer approach. Test first and then go next level. Now, in regards to going next level, let's talk about your coffee challenge. You've mentioned it a couple of times. I'd love to do just a little mini masterclass for our audience because I have found this one extremely powerful. I've got to say it's a commitment. So it is a commitment that you've got to make, but you see the benefits on the flip side. So can you talk us through what the coffee challenge is, how you apply it, and why it's been so powerful for you and so many others?
So there's a chapter on it in my book. And I've been doing this since I was 24 years old. So it's, almost 25 years now of my life. And what I've done is, and I know that so many businesses struggle with entertainment budgets. I didn't have an entertainment budget when I started out. And I still don't really have time for a long lunch. I really don't. It's not on my agenda unless, something really special is there to celebrate. So what I do each and every week is, no matter where I'm in the world, I coffee date with 3 people, one person in my tribe or my community, one person I want to partner with, and one person completely outside my comfort zone. So I'll explain that. I had a client yesterday fly in from Adelaide. I had a coffee date with her in the morning. I've been mentoring her for a while. And within the last 3 months, she's doubled her revenue. So she's hit 6 figures in a new business that really was only kind of floating along. So she was like, oh my gosh. And she got 2,000 organic LinkedIn followers since she's been working with me.
Wow.
So it was pretty impressive. So I went and had a coffee date with her. So she's in my tribe. I'm like, this is amazing. How else can I help you? Second coffee date was someone I wanted to partner with. And actually, I did 2 yesterday, and one was a lunch, simply because we had something to celebrate. So I lunched with Melissa Doyle, and we're working on a partnership together. But we also asked each other, how can we help each other, right? So all those beautiful media connections that I've had for years all come back to the same point now, because all of these women are in their 40s and 50s. And we say, how can we actually create something that's going to help other people get in the arena with us and make a difference? And then I had another coffee date with Christina Carlson, who was up from Melbourne, and we're actually going to be doing a collab together. Wow. So what you do with these coffee dates is, and especially the one outside the comfort zone, which was how I met Drew Barrymore, is I actually went for a partnership date in LA with, unbeknownst to me, her best friend, who then recommended me 2 years later to launch her brand into Australia. What you've got to do is be really strategic each and every week. How do you want to grow your business? How do you want to give back to other people, right? Giving back is like, do you want to mentor someone? Do you want to create and shape something that's going to give back to a community, whether it's, a cause that you're, really wanting to make a difference with and share your knowledge, but also what's the stretch? What's the stretch? Where do you want to get to? Okay. So when you map out those coffee dates, and I do them 12 weeks in advance, I really go, okay, well, who's in my community that I haven't seen in a while? I want to check in with, share what I'm doing, what they're doing. How can we help each other? The partnership one I always say is, who do you want to partner with to make a difference? Because let's face it, Facebook advertising, Instagram, even LinkedIn advertising is fatigued. It's really hard to get the golden thread to drive sales. But if you actually partner with other people and other brands, you're sharing data and community access. Yeah. So that to me is how I built all my brands. It's how I build other brands as well, authentically and with credibility. And the outside the comfort zone is, what's the big ask? I mean, I would love, without doubt, to have coffee or tea with Oprah and Michelle Obama.
Yeah.
No. And I ended up having a virtual coffee date with Oprah's chief of staff for 11 years. And I interviewed her on the podcast. She's in my book. People go, well, how did that happen? I said, well, I just asked for help. And she asked me, how can I help you? And in return, I helped her with things. So never think that a connection is outside of your connection or database. All you need to do is go into LinkedIn and see who the common thread is and ask them, can you introduce me to this person?
Yeah. Yeah. It's just about asking, isn't it? And we're so fortunate now. We've got the phone in the palm of our hand. Everyone's really accessible in one way, shape, or form. Are they going to respond? Well, that's, we don't know, but we've got to take that step to see what happens on the other side. Now, Tory, what would you say to someone who's listening and they say, Tory, I don't have time for 3 coffee dates a week?
Well, how are you going to build forward momentum in your life? And why are you listening to this podcast if you're not ready to take a powerful step? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the reason why people are tuning into your podcast is they want to learn, grow, and evolve. It's the
Yes.
same thing with a coffee date. If you want to learn, grow, and evolve, the power of human connection is what gets you to the next level.
Yeah.
It's great to do all these virtual chats, but there's nothing better than giving someone a hug and just
Mm.
going, wow, this is incredible. And I'm going to leave you with this one last example. I was in Austin, Texas, and I'd had this mentor virtually for a long time out of the US, but we actually met in person. She invited me into her home. And it was that first hug and that sharing of coffee and ceremony. And, we just sat down and we said, we feel like we know each other from the inside out. And she's obviously creating a legacy with what she's doing in the US. I'm doing the same with what I'm doing in Australia. But we said to each other, how can we come together to partner to help others? And so just because you start off with a virtual coffee date, it doesn't mean that somewhere in time you're not going to meet them in person.
Yeah.
You've just got to be willing to put your energy into connecting and trying something new.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And I've been sharing this with our entire community because
Good.
it is powerful. I do count my podcast as a coffee date. I know that's a bit of a sneaky one,
That's
but
good.
I'm at least doing my other two per week. And I couldn't agree more. Like I was saying to you earlier before we started recording, I love technology, but I'm very Zoom fatigued at this stage in the journey. So being able to meet someone in person, as you said, give them a hug, go deep into conversation. It's just a totally different dynamic to what you can achieve online. So it is that powerful connection. And it sets a really strong foundation from where to build. And also going into those, catch ups really authentically with no expectation, but knowing that, if there's going to be an opportunity that's there for you, it will present itself because you've authentically put yourself out there. So absolutely love this. So just for everyone, need to check out that chapter in the book. And there's also a masterclass on the coffee challenge as well, because that's how I found it. I
Yeah,
loved.
and that's free as well. But what I'd
Yeah.
also like to say, and what I would like to do is invite you to one of my events, because the events are an extension of the coffee date. And we have people flying in from Singapore, New Zealand. We've even had someone flying from LA,
Yeah.
all around Australia for these events that we host in Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, and now Perth. And it's getting people into the room that have met through the power of coffee dates
Yeah.
and allowing them, just like I did with Alison in Austin, Texas, giving that hug, making sure that you form that connection, and just being there as a cheer squad for other women is so important. So
Yeah.
it doesn't matter where you are in the world. Remember that from virtual to human connection is the most powerful form of not only advocating for your business, but advocating for other people's businesses as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. And I want to talk more about your offerings. So I know there's the day events and there's lots of other things. So I want to circle back to that in a minute. But while we're on the topic of, shifts in business, so virtual to human, what are the other significant shifts, Tori, that you see we're facing now in 2024 and beyond, uh, based on the way that we should be doing business, to set us up for the future? Things have changed, as we're saying, like in relation to human, virtual, but there's so many other things kind of coming at us in regards to technology and AI. And yeah, so what are you seeing based on
Great question.
the great amount of businesses that you're working with?
So we've all got a digital footprint, and gone are the days where you have a CV and you apply for a role, or you ask a business to partner with you. If someone wants to partner with you, the first thing they're going to do is Google you.
Yeah.
So it goes back to that 5-point story framework. Know your story, but show up and check out what Captain Google says with you and make sure it's accurate. Okay. Now, the other thing that we're noticing is a big trend, especially B2B, is LinkedIn. Yeah. LinkedIn is the best place to get into the arena and share your story. Now, coming from a publicist who spent 20 years there, I use LinkedIn as the newsroom for our business. Yeah. Now, if you're a leader of a business, you're a CMO or mid-management, whatever it is, whoever you are listening to this, you need to show up on LinkedIn. Now, the best times to show up are 7 a.m., 11 a.m., or 2 p.m. Get into the algorithm of not just showing up on LinkedIn, but also tapping into other social media to build your online presence. So we use later.com, which is a scheduling app, which I highly recommend, whether you're a brand, a product, a service, or an executive. So when we were in the US last week, ironically, I Googled Tory Archbold. What came up? Interesting.
Yep.
Second thing, I Googled the coffee challenge. We are ranking with no paid advertising #1 in the US for coffee challenge
Amazing.
and coffee
That's
date.
amazing.
Yeah. Now, the reason why is because I always have a CTA on everything I post,
Yeah.
but I use later.com to build the algorithm of my brand. Okay. And it's connected to Facebook, it's connected to Twitter, it's connected to LinkedIn, and it's
Yeah.
connected to Instagram. Now, people go, "Oh, Tori, you've only got 10,000 followers. We've got 250,000." I go, "Yeah, but do yours convert?"
Yeah. That's it. It's quality over
I can
quantity.
sell out on an Instagram story for an event, 50% sold out within 12 hours of posting on Instagram stories because my community is engaged.
Yeah.
Now, the reason why it doesn't matter about followers, it matters about content, because when people Google you, and I call it Twitter, I can't really quite call it X. I don't know why, but I'm like, I
I
can't.
know. It doesn't
I'm
feel
like,
right.
it doesn't feel right. So I'm going to refer to it as Twitter. I don't even think we have 40 followers on Twitter for Powerful Steps. But guess what? We're ranked on the front page in the US on Twitter because that platform is so strong over there. So if you're a retail brand and you're not using Twitter, you're crazy. Because when I Google my business, my name, and my product offerings, Twitter is capturing all of the information that we input into that planning tool, and it's actually building my digital footprint.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
And I love how you share so freely on topics like this, because this morning I read your post on LinkedIn, which took me step by step through everything that you've just shared. And you
Yeah.
shared that you use Later, and you shared what it's doing for SEO. So I think that that's also powerful, the amount of content that you're putting out, based on your experience and the results yourself and your clients are getting. It's freely available. And I love that you've articulated LinkedIn as the newsroom of business. That really
It
says it
100%
all.
is.
Says
It
it
is.
all.
It's a newsroom of business, and you've got to get involved. So I have a client that's currently in our business attraction program. She posted for the first time. She hadn't posted in 8 months.
Yeah.
She posted for the first time in our program. She got 671 likes. I think it was something like 78 comments and 4 reposts. And I said, "This is amazing. You're back. You're positioning yourself. You said you had a challenge, but here's a possibility," right?
Yeah.
So we're leading with heart, not ego. She had a massive challenge. Then I said to her, "I think you should do a photo shoot with us. I don't like the energy of the photos that you have on LinkedIn. So you invested in the photo shoot." And I said to her, "Look, my husband's really good at videoing me. You don't need to." I used to spend tens of thousands when I started Powerful Steps, hiring film crews and all the rest of it, and I would get no traction. I asked
Yeah.
my husband, "Can you please film me for 30 seconds, 45 seconds? I'll just get a blow dry, put a bit of makeup on, let's see the traction." Because video on LinkedIn gets 5 times engagement,
Yeah.
right?
Wow.
5
Yeah.
times the views. We did that for her. She had something like 400 likes, but her reposts were 11. Yeah.
Mm.
So the thing is, she's like, "I can't do video. What am I going to wear?" Then she calls me before International Women's Day and she says, "Tori, you're never going to believe it. The ABC want to interview me." And I said, "Well, of course." I said, "You did the first post on your back. You did the
Yeah.
second post, which was magnetic, which was the video so people could see your energy and hear the power of your message. So why would they not want to interview you?" And she said, "Well, but what should I wear?" And I said, "You're going to wear the same thing that you wore in the video, because it's like the Russell Crowe mythology. Rinse and repeat the same outfit until people get fatigued." And I said, when you're building a brand, you rinse and repeat the way you
Yeah.
look, the way you show up, so that it goes into people's memory banks and they go, "Oh, that's
Mm.
Catherine."
That's right. It's like the brand DNA, that consistency, and we don't have to overcomplicate it. Because
We don't.
sometimes I'll think that I'll freak out, like, oh my God, I've got this major event. I'm going to have to get a whole new outfit. It's like, no,
Yes,
consistency, show up the way that you would authentically show up. So really good
correct.
point. And I've got to share what I've started to notice on LinkedIn. I can pretty much pick the people who are working with you now, because
Oh,
there's, I can just see all of a sudden they're like sharing so freely, and I'm drawn into their story. So we've had two amazing ladies on my podcast that have worked with you, and the reason that I noticed them on LinkedIn was because of their powerful stories. So Vanessa Bell and Natalie Dabchek from Moza Label, both
Oh,
of
we
those
are.
ladies, all of a sudden they popped up. Yeah.
It's giving people the confidence and the permission, as we said before, to become fearless. But the
Yes.
only reason why they are so good at showing up and sharing is from that 5-point story.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that is the framework, that is the basis. And even when we're doing this event in Santa Monica in October this year, I'm only doing it for 30 women. And the lady that I partnered with has a high profile TV show out of New York, but she's an ex-tech entrepreneur.
Yeah.
I said to her, that 5-point story framework, that's going to be the game changer for all the women in the room, because they think that they know each other, but
Mm,
they don't.
yeah.
They think that they know themselves because they have a high profile, but they don't.
Mm,
And it's until you can actually tap into the heart of who you are and unleash that happy heart, that's when you're actually able, as a leader, as a parent, a partner, however you want to position yourself, that's where you add the most value.
yeah, absolutely love it. So let's share with everyone how they can tap into your amazing offerings. So you've got
Oh,
the in real life events, you've got your online offerings, you've got obviously your podcast, you've got your book. There's so much gold there.
yeah.
Where could our listeners start?
Powerful-steps.com is my website. You can actually book in for a coffee date with me. So, but I make it really hard for people because I want to know that they're doing the work.
Yeah.
So if I know that they've signed up for the coffee challenge or the 5-point story framework, there will become an invitation, one of those emails, to have a coffee date with me. And that's really how I get to meet amazing women like you who are interested in elevating. We do the business attraction program, which is what those 3 women that have been on your podcast have done.
Yep.
It's life-changing. We now do these workshops with women around the world. Our next one is actually in Brisbane at the Cully Hotel on the 21st and the 22nd. It's going to be incredible. And then we've got Santa Monica from the 15th to the 17th of October.
Wow.
So my whole passion is, let's get the right women in the room. Let's collectively make a difference. Let's make sure that we're creating and building powerful brands for the people. Because when I look back at my career with Torstar and now with Powerful Steps, it's all fueled by human connection. So
Mm,
that's why we created this community. It's your cheer
absolutely.
squad.
Just love it. It's such a powerful ecosystem. So we'll definitely share all of those details in our show notes and really invite our audience to reach out to you for that coffee date. There's an open invitation, everyone. That this is one
Yes.
not to be missed. That's for sure. Now,
Thank you.
Tori, let's shine the light back onto you for a moment. From what I can see, you seem to be everywhere all at once at the moment. And so you seem to have like this unlimited well of energy that you are sharing with everyone around you. So let's talk about how you do it. What are the
Mm,
rituals, routines? How do you start your day? How do
mm,
you maintain what you're doing at such a high level, a high
mm.
standard?
It's a great question. So I start my morning off with a morning shower ritual, which involves lavender oil. So every single morning, and my husband knows that's her time. There's no hokey pokey in the shower. This is my meditation time. I'm like 3 drops of lavender oil on my decollage, and I inhale, exhale, and I literally just listen to what my body needs. Yeah. Really, really important. Every morning I do a walk and talk and a coffee date with my husband. After that, I sage my house regularly because I work from home. I think that's really important. You've got to have really clear energy. But most importantly, I end my day with gratitude. So I repeat that lavender oil ritual at nighttime. And I always say thank you for 3 things that have happened to me throughout the day, whether it's meeting a person, an opportunity like to share, my wisdom on your podcast, whatever it is. I say thank you. And I sleep really well at night.
Mm,
But I'm also surrounded by good people. I'm very protective of my energy. And also the programs that I host one-on-one, or the women that I mentor one-on-one from a strategic perspective, I've met all of them through coffee dates. and I lean into the power of their energy. And I really ask myself, is this an energy match?
Mm,
Can I really help them? And if I can't, I just become unavailable.
yeah.
That's
I
how I protect my energy. I just become unavailable. So I really place my energy where I know I can make a difference. And that happy heart that is a magnet for miracles, that is my mantra day in and day out. What's going to make me happy?
mm.
What's going to give me joy? And that's where I place my energy again from a personal business perspective.
I love it. Sounds simple, but so powerful. And I've got to say, I've got the lavender oil in the shower because Natalie shared that during our
Oh,
chat. And I think the next day I went out and bought it. And I'm just like, it is. It's
it
just
helps. Yeah.
it's a mini meditation. It's so grounding. It's
Yeah.
very grounding. And it is amazing how just having that consistent ritual, it
Yeah.
just brings you back to center. So highly, highly recommend that. And
Are you doing the gratitude at nighttime as
I
well?
I am. I'm a big journaler, so I always
Mm,
do that just to definitely
mm,
express my gratitude at the end of the day. And
beautiful.
I love the protecting of the energy. I'm getting better at that. Wouldn't say I've mastered it yet because I've very much been that, yes, come on in
Yeah.
type of person over the journey. But as I'm, getting to this stage of life, I realize that protecting your energy, as you said, if it's a good energy match, come on in. If not, or it might not be for now, it might be for later. But I think
Mm,
being aware of that, using that discernment, and checking in with yourself, and like checking in with how it
mm,
feels, is it a yeah, an
mm,
immediate yes, or is it potentially maybe not for now, or it's an absolute no? So I think
mm.
checking in with ourselves is really powerful. But I love that protect
Yeah.
our energy because we don't have an unlimited supply, unfortunately. So
We
it's
don't have.
yeah,
We've got to give in ways that not only gives us joy, but also gives other people joy.
yeah,
And I have to say as well that when I first started the business, and I think this is important for people to hear as well, there were a lot of takers.
yeah.
And so what I did was I put measures in place where within 5 minutes, if I thought it was all about them and not about us, I just cut the
Mm,
conversation short because I found it was too draining to just give, give, give.
yeah,
So make sure that if you're feeling that, you just cut a conversation short. The second thing I did was, we obviously do all of these events and they sell out,
yeah.
but we also don't have a spare seat in the room.
Wow,
So we just did one for International Women's Day and we partnered with CEO Magazine. We had 140 women in the room, 140 women showed up.
wow.
We had an event in Melbourne. It was a sit down dinner, 40 women showed up. But the reason why that happens is I place value on what we do. So I say, if you book in and you want to be a part of our community and you can't make something, you let me know because there's another woman that will take your spot and you are going to gift your ticket forward, right?
Yeah.
So by creating boundaries, but with gratitude and love in your heart, and it's not about a money-making business, it's about if you can't commit to this, that's okay. Someone else will have your spot. What it does is it attracts a higher vibrational woman
Mm.
into your orbit and a woman that wants to be in the room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. It is the attraction. It is what are you projecting to attract what's going to resonate and sit
Mm,
well with you. So it is definitely an energy exchange and an energy
mm.
match, which I love.
Yeah,
Now,
beautiful.
Tori, we're at the pointy end now. So in
Mhm.
closing, what excites you most about the future of women in business?
Oh, so much. You know what? Women are incredible humans. And if they place more emphasis on sharing the wisdom that has been passed on to them to others, there is nothing stopping them, honestly. If you're running a business at the moment and someone's like, oh, you got to turn it into like a $500 million business for sale and you're struggling right now, anchor back into what you're good at
Mm.
and sharing it with others, because when you share it with others, they will help you build that sale. Yeah. It's always about paying it forward, sharing what you've learned, and leading with heart, not ego, is the most important thing for women in business right now. And not being afraid to share your vulnerabilities. That's so
Yeah.
important because a lot of women out there, and I see this with a lot of corporate women, they have a very different makeup than entrepreneurial women. But if they just softened it a bit they would get so much further in life. You don't
Yeah.
have to be the ironclad woman, the dictatorial leader. Those days are gone. You know, teams want to be led by someone that has empathy and compassion and is not afraid to share their lived experience.
I love that. Business with heart. Tory, what a profound message to leave everyone with. Thank you so much for joining me today. Congratulations to you and your team on the
Thank you.
transformational work that you're all doing. We can't wait to see what you do next. And of course, continue to follow your Powerful Steps journey and see you at one of your events very, very soon. Thank you so much.
Love it. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much for listening to the Fashion Business Mindset podcast. We'd love to keep connected. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook at Fashion Equipped. Head to our website fashionequipped.com.au. If you've enjoyed this episode, please share this podcast with others, hit subscribe, leave us a rating and review. Let's do this together. Let's make the fashion business your business.
This is a Guide Your Light network production, creating podcasts with purpose.